So you hear about Iran and the United States in the news constantly, right? The tension, the threats, the standoffs, but it often feels like we're dropped into the middle of a story. Why are they enemies? Well, to really understand today, you have to untangle a whole century of conflict. It's a story packed with oil, a dramatic revolution, and a whole lot of mistrust.
Okay, let's just start with what's happening right now. A huge piece of Iran's foreign policy is supporting groups, proxies, across the region. You've heard the names: Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen. This lets Iran project power and fight its enemies without having to get into a direct war.
And on the flip side, what's the main weapon the US uses against Iran? It's all about the money. We're talking about absolutely crippling economic sanctions. The goal is to squeeze Iran's economy so hard that it's forced to change its behavior, both on its nuclear program and its actions in the region.
But this whole thing isn't just a two-player game between Iran and the US. You absolutely cannot understand the Middle East without factoring in the massive rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia. This is a battle for influence, for dominance, between the two heavyweights of the Islamic world.
So yeah, it's a relationship built on some serious bad blood. There's no doubt about that. But the big question is, how did it get this bad? What happened to lead us here? To answer that, we've got to go back, way back. All right, let's jump in our time machine and head to the early 20th century. Before it was Iran, it was known as Persia. And Persia was, quite literally, stuck between a rock and a hard place, caught between the expanding empires of Russia and Great Britain. For decades, Persia was basically a pawn in this huge geopolitical chess match called the Great Game. You had Russia pushing down from the north and Britain pushing up from the south, both of them just carving away at Persia's independence for their own gain. And then, something happened that would change the course of history for the entire region. In 1908, a British adventurer hits the jackpot. He finds oil, a massive, world-changing amount of it. And just like that, everything changed. And get this, look at the deal they made. The company they formed, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, which by the way would later become British Petroleum or BP, gave Persia just 16% of the profits from its own oil. It's an unbelievable deal.
You can just feel the resentment in that sentiment, can't you? This wasn't just some business deal that felt a little unfair. For so many people in Persia, this was a national humiliation. It felt like their country's treasure was being stolen right out from under them.
Okay. So now we jump forward to 1951, and this is a moment you absolutely have to understand because it's where the United States really enters the picture as a new enemy in the eyes of many Iranians. This is a massive turning point in the story. So this man, Mohammad Mossadegh, becomes the democratically elected prime minister. He's incredibly popular, a true nationalist, and he's got this one simple, powerful idea. Iran's oil should belong to the people of Iran. So he does the unthinkable. He nationalizes the entire industry, taking it back from the British. Well, the West did not take that lying down. The reaction was fast, and it was decisive. First, they tried an economic boycott. When that didn't work, the CIA and Britain's MI6 went to Plan B, a covert operation. They engineered a coup, overthrew a democratic government, and put the pro-Western monarch, the Shah, back in absolute power. And this right here, this is the source of so much of that deep-seated mistrust. For many Iranians, this single event was the ultimate proof that all the American talk about freedom and democracy was just, well, talk. It was a tool to be used only when it served their interests. But overthrowing Mossadegh didn't end the story. All it did was push all that anger and resentment underground. So the Shah was not on the throne with America's full support, but that resentment, it was just simmering, waiting for its moment to boil over into a full-blown revolution. So under the Shah, Iran started to look a lot more Western. He pushed secular reforms, women entered the workforce, European fashion was in. But for the more religious and traditional parts of Iranian society, this was a disaster. And into that gap stepped this exiled figure, the Ayatollah Khomeini, with a powerful anti-American message that offered a completely different vision for Iran. And here's a pretty wild detail. How did his revolutionary message spread? On cassette tapes. His sermons were recorded, smuggled into Iran, and copied and passed from person to person. He was calling for a brand new type of government, a theocracy led by religious scholars. And his ideas just caught fire. By late 1978, this was a massive movement. We're talking millions of people, students, shopkeepers, clergy, all united against the Shah. The protests were so huge, so unstoppable, that by January 1979, the game was up. The monarchy collapsed, and the Shah fled the country.
And then came the crisis that would define U.S.-Iran relations for generations. The U.S. allowed the exiled, ailing Shah into America for medical treatment. Back in Iran, students, terrified that this was the first step toward another CIA coup, stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. And for 444 agonizing days, they held 52 Americans hostage. The revolution was now complete. Iran was declared an Islamic Republic. And it's a really unique system, right? It's a kind of hybrid. They have elections for a president and a parliament, but the person with the final say on absolutely everything is an unelected religious scholar, the supreme leader. So this brand new revolutionary state now has to figure out how to operate in the world, how to project its power and defend itself. And the way it chose to do that, well, that's what created the conflicts that define the Middle East today.
Look, Iran knew it couldn't go toe-to-toe with the American military. That would be suicide. So they came up with a different playbook: asymmetric warfare. The idea was to build a network of loyal proxy groups all across the region to fight their battles for them and export their revolutionary ideology.
And this chart really lays out that modern battlefield. It's essentially a regional Cold War playing out, with Iran on one side and Saudi Arabia on the other. You see it in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, each side backing opposing factions, often along that Shia-Sunni religious divide. So this brings us right to the heart of the conflict today. You basically have two completely different narratives. Iran sees itself as a proud, independent nation that's resisting a long history of American bullying. The U.S. and its allies see Iran as the world's leading sponsor of terrorism, a dangerous force trying to get a nuclear bomb.
When you step back and look at the whole thing, it's just this incredible century-long saga. From a lopsided oil deal in 1908 all the way to a nuclear standoff today. It's just been this relentless cycle of action and reaction, of grievance and retaliation. And it all leaves us with the one huge question that really matters. Can this cycle ever be broken?